Welcome to Lesson 68, Part 1. There's a few things that you're going to need before we start. You're going to need some kinds of different colors, either colored pencils or crayons or something like that. You also need your highlighter, and you're going to need what's called a straight edge. Colors you want to try to make sure you have is green, red, and yellow. If you don't, that's okay. Just have some different colors. Maybe you could use your pens, pencils, highlighters. We also want something called a straight edge, and it just has to have an edge that's straight. So you could use anything. You could use the side of a folder. You could use the side of a pencil box if you have it. You could use a ruler if you have the ruler. Just anything that has a straight edge that you can use to make straight lines or segments or things such as that. All right, so we are looking at Lesson 68, Points, Lines, Line Segments, and Rays, pages 9 and 10. Okay, so our content objective for 4th grade geometry 1. I can identify and draw points, lines, line segments, and rays. Language objective, I can use vocabulary related to geometry to describe points, lines, line segments, and rays. Social objective, I can work with others to create models of points, lines, line segments, and rays. So this should actually have a comma between lines and line segments. Okay, we have a few vocabulary words. Geometry has lots of vocabulary. If you understand what the word means, you understand a lot about what you'll be doing with it. A plane. A plane is a flat surface that extends infinitely in all directions. So if you imagine it's like a piece of paper, it's flat, or it could be going vertically if you stood the paper up. But it's like a paper that continues forever in all directions. But it is just that one flat surface. It doesn't fold up, it's just two dimensions, has length and width, but it goes on forever in all directions. A point is an exact location on a plane represented by a dot. So we use dots to show points. Line. A line is a set of points in a straight plane. It has no beginning and no end. So here we have a line, and it's all the points in this row that make up the line. And to show them, we just draw the line, and since it goes forever, we show it with an arrow on each end to show they go forever, because we can't draw it forever. Line segment. So a segment is a piece. So a line segment is a part or a piece of a line with two endpoints. A line linking 2 points. So it's like we took a line that goes forever and we took just a piece that we're going to look at. The other two ends will go forever, but we're just going to look at that piece or that segment. Endpoint, the ends of a line segment or the beginning of a ray. So that's where the points are. So here we have a line. We take out that piece, that line segment, and we have endpoints where the line segment ends. We also have our ray that has one endpoint and continues forever in the other direction. Ray. A ray is a type of straight line with an endpoint on one end while extending endlessly in the other direction. So if you think of like a sun, a ray of light from the sun, it starts somewhere and then it goes out. So the end point is like the sun. It's the starting point, and it continues out from there forever. Okay, we have some examples here just to go over. These last three we'll talk about in a later lesson. But point, we just use a dot. Here the line segment's kind of light, but you have the two endpoints. And this is where your straight edge comes in, because you want to make sure it's straight. So you have your two endpoints. On your straight line, we have our line, and then also we have our ray. And so it has one endpoint, and then it continues in the other direction forever. So the arrows show that it's continuing forever. Angle, parallel lines, and perpendicular lines we'll talk more about in a later lesson. So again, just getting down those examples, making sure we know what these mean. We have a point. Just a dot represents a point, a location on that plane. A line, so just take your straight edge. And notice how I have my pen straight up and down. You want your pencil straight up and down so that it's up against the straight edge to be able to use it. And then we put arrows on it to show that it goes forever in both directions. A line segment. Okay, so you put your pencil straight up and down against that straight edge. And it's very important to make a straight edge. It has to be perfectly straight, and there's very little chance you can do it without the help of a straight edge, and we'll be able to tell. And then a ray. Oops. So a line segment, we have those end points on it because it ends. It doesn't continue forever like a line. It's just a piece of that line cut off. A ray has one end point and continues in the other direction forever. All right, so now we're going to look at some different aspects of points, lines, line segments, and rays. So in this first one, it says highlight the points in each shape. So the points would be where those line segments come together, because these shapes are formed with line segments. So they have end points at each of them. So these would be all our points on this plus sign looking shape. So the points are where the ends of the line segments are. Those are our endpoints. So here we have those. We can also look at them as corners, which we call vertices usually in shapes, or vertex. But those points, those endpoints of the line segment. So now it says to highlight them. So just go over with your highlighter and highlight where just those points are. I went over it with my pen or pencil first, so it'd be easier to see. But those are all the points on both shapes. Technically there are points in between, but we call those the line segments. Okay, this one says highlight the lines. So lines are the ones that go on forever. So this one right here has two arrows to indicate it goes forever, so I'm going to highlight that. This one right here has endpoints, so it's a line segment, not a line. I don't want to highlight that. This one right here has arrows on both ends, so that's a line. It goes on forever on both sides. This one has an endpoint on one side, so this is a ray. I don't want to highlight that. Okay, this one says highlight the line segment. So this time we're looking for endpoints on both ends. So this one has endpoints on both ends, so that's a line segment. This has one endpoint and then continues forever, so that's a ray. Here's another line segment because it has two endpoints. And then this one has arrows on both ends, so that is a ray. So these are our two line segments. Here we want to highlight the rays, so we have an endpoint that continues out forever, an endpoint that continues out forever. These two rays have the same endpoint, which actually forms an angle, but they are both rays. This is a line, so we don't want to highlight that. Okay, so we're going to identify some more. We have some different directions here. Okay. Place points on the line segment of the hexagon. So we're going to put points at the end of our line segments on this hexagon here. Next, outline each line segment in a different color. So this is where those colored pencils or crayons can come in. We just need a different color for each one. If you don't have crayons or colored pencils, then you may use a different pen, because you have 3 colored pens, pencil, highlighter, and you can rotate them. Okay, so you should have 6 different colors, or at least a pattern going on there. Next it says, how many line segments? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6. Label each point with a letter. Now in geometry, we always use capital letters to label points. When we're solving equations, we use lowercase letters. So capital letters are for points in geometry. Lowercase letters are used to hold the place of a number so that we don't get confused between the two. I'm going to start with the letter H. And then usually in geometry we go in alphabetical order just to make it easier. So H, I, J, K, L, M. I just chose H. I could have started with A. I could have started with N. I could have started with any number, any letter, and I didn't necessarily have to go in order, but it does make it a little easier to just go in alphabetical order. Okay, this next one, outline each ray in yellow. So rays have an end point, and continue forever in one direction. So that's this one here. This is a line, this is a line, this is a line segment. So just one of them should be highlighted. Circle the points. So we have an end point here. We have an end point here. That's why that's a line segment. This one only has one end point, so it's a ray. Outline each line in green. This is where we need the green. If you don't have green, then just cross that word out and put what color you do have. If it's a blue pen, just put blue. So I'm going to take my lines. The lines have the arrows at the end that continue on forever. So both of these are lines. Outline each line segment in red. You should have a red pen to be able to do this if you don't have a crayon or colored pencil. So that's my line segment because it has endpoints at each end. Okay, now let's look at this one. Place points on the line segments of the house. So we have a point at each of the end, those endpoints on each of the line segments. If they're connected by the same endpoint, they're called adjacent lines. They're right next to each other. Outline each line segment in a different color. If you only have a few colors, not enough for each one to be different, then just do a pattern with them so that they're not next to each other. The same colors, that is. same, so I'm going to use a different one. Alright, so you outline each of the line segments. How many line segments? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are a total of 7 line segments. Label each point with a letter. Okay, this time I'm going to start with the letter S. S, T, U, remember they're capital letters, V, W, X, Y. They don't have to go in order. They don't necessarily have to be those letters, but that's ones I'm using right now. And it does make it easier when it goes in order. Okay, this one we have to draw. This is where we start here. Draw a line segment through, connect two rays to form an angle. Sorry, let's start there. So we need a point, an end point. And from that end point, we're going to make two rays. So we need our straight edge. Okay, yours doesn't necessarily have to look exactly like mine, but you do want it to be something like this, where you have one end point and then two rays. Remember to put your arrows on your rays, and you do need to use a straight edge. So these two rays form an angle, and this says draw a line segment through the angle. So I'm going to just have my straight edge here, make it go through the angle, and I'm going to put my end points on it to show that it's a line segment and not a line. Circle the points. So this is a point, this is a point, and this is a point. Talking about all those endpoints. Draw a line through only the line segment. So I want it to go through the line segment and not the ray. So I'm going to find, and it has to continue forever, so it can't be in this middle part. Okay, so this is a line, so I'm going to put arrows at the end. So it can't be inside this part here. I could have done it maybe up here too. Either way, but I needed to draw a line only through the line segment. So we have our connecting two rays to form an angle. We drew a line segment through the angle. We circled the points, and we drew a line that went only through the line segment, did not go through the ray. All right, let's practice more identifying points, lines, line segments, and rays.